Hi everyone, and welcome back to tutorial number 4 of this series. In today's tutorial we're going to speak about adjustment layers. Now I do recommend that if you've not watched tutorial number 3, go ahead and do so before watching this tutorial, because in this tutorial I'm going to go through masks rather quickly, since we've already talked about masks in tutorial number 3 quite extensively. Okay, so that said, let's begin. Adjustments or adjustment layers. What, who, why, and when should you use an adjustment layer instead of an adjustment? Well, first of all, let's start with what is an adjustment. An adjustment can be anything from brightness, contrast, levels, curves, exposure, vibrance, hue, saturation, or anything on this list. All of the things in this list are called adjustments. So I'm going to go into my adjustments, and let's say for example I want to change the levels. So I go ahead and click on the levels, or Ctrl+L for the shortcut, and then I can go ahead and retouch my picture, play with the midtones, adjust the white point, and that looks a bit better. And so I'll go ahead and click OK, and then we're going to go ahead and change the color of the car from red to, let's say, green. Green looks okay, and I'm gonna go ahead and change my saturation. And let's also change my sky using the selective color. I'm going to select blues, and I'm going to go ahead and change the sky a bit. Okay. Now, a few things which you've probably noticed while I've been doing this is that when I change the car's color from red to green, the car is not the only thing that changed its color. Also, this piece of wood, which was a bit red, changed its color to green. Also the door, and also this piece right here, anything which was a bit red changed to green. And let's just go ahead and see a quick before and after. This is before and this is after. So I'm just going to go ahead and return to my earlier position, and I'm going to show you another technique of creating this effect without affecting other parts of this picture. I'm going to go ahead and click Ctrl+J to duplicate my layer, and then I'm going to create a mask by clicking my Add Layer Mask, and I'm going to make a quick selection using my quick selection tool just of the car, nothing exact, just to show you the concept of what I want to do. And then I can go ahead and do the same. Image, adjustments, hue, saturation, go to my reds for example, and change them to, let's say, let's do the same, change it to green, put the saturation down, and my lightness a bit down, and that's good. And you can see I've missed a small piece here, so I'm going to select my brush tool, and when my mask is selected, I'll paint over. I'll make sure my opacity is on 100, and I'll color over to make sure all of my car is green. If I missed another part here, I can do the same here. Cool, that's a good technique, and that probably means I can do the same for the rest of the image, doesn't it? I could always go ahead and make another copy of the background, and then I can make a quick selection of my sky, create a quick mask from my selection, and then we're going to go back into adjustments just like before, choose a selective color, and change my blues to something slightly different, just so we feel the difference. Okay, that's not bad. I can always of course go in here and retouch places where I've missed. So that looks okay, but it took us quite a lot of time and it wasn't so efficient. Well, it's obviously a better way than simply going into my layer and making a selection and changing the hue saturation like this, because this way we have no way to return to our original color. We're simply locked. We colored over our original background color and we have nothing to do now to get it back. We could try and paint it back using the hue saturation back to red, but it's that's definitely not the best way. So at least when we use the masks, we have always a way of turning off a layer, and we can always go ahead and paint over parts of it and return the original color. So it is definitely a better way, duplicating the layer and adding a mask and then using the adjustment tools. So let's move on to adjustments. How? The best way to create an adjustment to a layer without deleting any data and while working on specific selections is by going down in your layers panel into this yin-yang kind of symbol and by clicking on it. And note that when I open this panel, it is almost identical to the panel which opens up when I go into Image Adjustments. So wait a second, is this just a shortcut or just another way to get into this panel? Just a quicker way? Well, that's not fair, is it? You've kept us in tension until now and all you're showing us is a simple shortcut? You could have done this ages ago. Well, of course not. This is not just a shortcut. This is the way to create an adjustment layer. Pay attention, adjustment layers. Okay? Now, what do I mean by adjustment layers? Let's just quickly create a levels adjustment on this layer, okay, real quick, and click OK. The adjustment was applied directly on the layer and I have no way of editing it again. It's simply kind of merged onto the layer and I have no way of controlling it or deleting it or adjusting it. So let's go back one step and we're going to do the same down here. We're going to go into our levels and look what happened. A new layer opened and this layer is called an adjustment layer. You can see here it says adjustments. And if we go ahead and we do the similar change like we've done before and then we close it, all of this information is kept in a new layer. And the advantages of this option are huge. First of all, we did not destroy any information. We can always go ahead and return to our previous state. We can always go ahead and throw it in the trash. Unlike before, once we've made an adjustment, we couldn't adjust it anymore. This way we can simply double click on our adjustment symbol and then change it to whatever we'd like. And that's simply a fantastic thing. And this is not the only thing that comes with this amazing adjustment layer. Does this little thumbnail look familiar? Maybe from tutorial number 3? Yes, it is. And what is it? Like you can see now, it's a layer mask. And as you can see, it's completely white. And I'm not going to really go into masks now because, like I said, we've covered it. But I can always go ahead and make a quick selection of my car. And I'll fill it with black. And Control I to invert my mask. And now all that is affected is my car. Now in this case I don't really want to use this mask because I do want the levels to adjust all of my pictures. So I'm just going to go ahead and click Shift left click on my mask thumbnail to hide it. And now we're going to go ahead and, just like before, change the car's color to green. So we'll go back down to our adjustment layers yin yang and go into hue saturation and start changing the colors car to green. That looks good. We'll put the saturation down, the lightness a bit down, and that looks good. And now obviously we don't want our hue saturation adjustment to affect all of our layer, so we could simply drag the mask thumbnail by clicking Alt and drag onto our new adjustment layer. And it's going to ask us if we want to replace the layer mask, and we'll say yes we do. And as you can see, all our hue saturation adjustment layer is affecting now is our car. And we do need to make a few small fixes here and here as well, and maybe here as well, and that looks quite good. Now one more really important thing about adjustment layers is that the adjustment layers affect all of the layers which come underneath it, and that's why I have this hidden layer here that you might have asked yourself what it is. And this layer is simply a motorcycle with some nice shading on it, and we'll put it back into position. And if I go ahead and move my motorcycle underneath my adjustment layers, you'll see that it's immediately affected by the adjustment layers I have here. Now in this case you can't see a huge difference except the levels difference. So just for explaining purposes, we're going to create another hue saturation adjustment layer, and we're going to go ahead and make a noticeable change on purpose. And as you can see, everything which is under this adjustment layer is affected. So how do we fix this problem? First of all, if I want the levels to affect only my background layer, I can simply select them and put them under my motorcycle. The levels now are not affecting my motorcycle anymore because they are under my motorcycle's layer. But what about this new hue saturation layer, which is causing tons of problems for me? I don't want my sky to be purple. All I want this level to affect is my motorcycle. So you're probably saying, well, simply create a mask like you've just shown us. And yes, you're right. I could simply go in and make a really rough selection and then create a mask just like before. And I can always go ahead and retouch my edges just to make it a bit softer. And I can, of course, go in and adjust my mask so it's absolutely perfect. Well, yes, I could. You're right. That's one way to do it. But a much, much faster and way more convenient way to do this is to simply click on my right click and create clipping mask. And look what happened now. My new adjustment layer is clipped to the layer underneath it, which in this case is our motorcycle. And now if I go ahead and I change the color to something else, blue for example, all I'm affecting is my motorcycle, even though my adjustment layer is above all of my other layers. This is a way to make sure our adjustment layer is affecting only the specific layer we want it to affect. And if I create another motorcycle, you can see that my adjustment layer is affecting only the new layer because it is the one that is now underneath my adjustment layer which has a clipping mask. And when you have a clipping mask, this kind of arrow shows up. That's your indication of having a clipping mask. If I want to duplicate this adjustment and make it affect also this motorcycle, I can simply drag it by clicking Alt above my first motorcycle and create another clipping mask. It's that easy, and then I can go ahead and change its color to look like the car is green, for example. And if, for example, I want to create another adjustment layer for my new motorcycle, I can always go ahead and create let's go ahead and create an exaggerated levels touch. Now it's affecting everything, but if I click on Alt again, it will only affect the first layer which is underneath it, which in this case is our motorcycle. And if I move it down to my second motorcycle, it will affect it. And if I move it down to my background layer, it will affect my background layer only. So I think we've covered everything to do with adjustment layers. I really hope you've understood the part about the clipping masks. I'm also working on a new tutorial which covers clipping masks in a bit more details. And in that tutorial, we will cover a few more examples of how to use the clipping masks. It is a very strong tool, and it's good to know how to use it properly, since it can be used in many different situations. I hope this wasn't too hard to follow. Of course, you're always welcome to subscribe to my channel or leave a small comment on my videos just to let me know what you think. And if you have any questions of any sort, you're always welcome to ask me, and I'll do my best to try and explain. So that's it for now. I'll see you again in tutorial number 5. Until then, bye bye.